So I guess I'll start. So welcome everybody. Good evening. Thanks for coming. I'm Harriet Moss and I'm on the board of directors of Friends of the River, and I'm also the chair of the committee that puts this event on every year. And I have to say that about 5 days before this event every year, I start to think, oh my God, we've done all this work and nobody's going to show up. So thank you all very much for proving me wrong this year. It's really great to see all of you. I think that a lot of you have been here before, and you know that this is Friends of the River's biggest fundraiser every year. And it's really an important source of funding for the organization because all of the money that you generous people who are here tonight donate through your sponsorships and your tickets and through bidding generously on the auction items is money that Friends of the River can use and put wherever it needs to be put, unlike grants, which are usually specified what they have to be spent on. The money that gets raised here tonight is used for what I always think of as unmanned, that's not what I think of it as unfunded mandates from the universe, although usually they're coming from politicians or water developers. So thank you very, very much for your generosity this evening. And I encourage you to continue to be generous as we go into the live auction. I'd like to recognize my fellow members of the host committee. So could you stand up when I say your names, please? Staff members, Johnny Carlson and Mandy Rowley, are you here? Johnny and Mandy? These two have worked so hard this year. Thank you guys very, very much for all the work you put into this event. Renee Hamlin, are you here? Renee? My fellow board members, Richard Weiss. Richard? And is Natalie Zenchus here? I haven't seen Natalie this evening. And then, sadly, Bob Cushman, who couldn't be here with us this evening, but is in bed instead. More about that later. And his partner, wife, Faith, and our consultants, Lauren Hewitt and Lauren McLaughlin, who put all the logistics of this together. Lauren, the Laurens, are you here? There they are. It was a great committee, and it's why we're all here tonight. And if you're having a good time, please make sure you thank those folks, because they really put a huge amount of work into this. I'd also like to have our board members stand up. Friends of the River board members, would you just stand up? I'm not going to say your names, but and staff, FOR staff. I know Johnny, Mandy, Steve, I think I'm standing there. Ron is here somewhere. Alexandra. These people are the reason that FOR exists. The board and the staff, this has been a difficult year for Friends of the River, just as it has been for many nonprofit organizations. And it's through the really very, very hard work of the board and the staff in turning that around that we're all still here. So we owe you all a great debt of gratitude. We also owe a debt of gratitude to the volunteers that really make Friends of the River the organization it is. And so on behalf of the staff and the board this evening, I just want to thank everybody in this room who spent their time and energy donating it to Friends of the River this year. Thank you very, very much. Again, the organization would not exist without you. So, you know, we start this event months and months and months in advance, and we do lots of planning, and we look at last year's event and see what we can make better, and we think about new things we can do every year. And we try to make sure that there are no night of surprises. We want to know what's going to happen when we come in here the evening of. Well, the one thing we couldn't plan for this year is that as of yesterday, our MC got laid up in bed with a very bad respiratory infection, Bob Cushman. So we suddenly were without a master of ceremonies, which we had not planned on. So before I introduce our MC for the evening, I just want to say we owe an extremely large thank you to my fellow board member, Corley Phillips, for stepping in at the last minute and taking on the MC duties. So Corley, let me turn it over to you.
All right. I'm going to try this one. Does that sound better? It's for those of you who told me you couldn't hear my joke. It was a great joke. Sorry you missed it. Yeah, they asked me to do this because I'm so shy and retiring. And a lot of you came up to me and said, you know, you look really familiar. I said, well, you know, I do look like the most interesting man in the world. And I don't always drink beer, but when I do, it's New Belgian beer because they're our sponsor tonight, so thank you, New Belgian. So we're going to kick this off a little fun. We're going to auction off some items. How about that? Are you guys ready? You know, you ready to do a little bidding, you know? Try to make it exciting, interesting. We go 750? 700 going once? 700 going twice? Yeah. Yeah, 750. Sold. Okay, I think I have 700 in the back here. 700 going once, 700 going twice. Sold. What's your number? All right, so our next speaker joined Friends of the River in 1987 and was named Senior Policy Advocate in 1995. So he's been at Friends of the River for a long time. Prior to that, he was the Executive Director for the Merced Canyon Committee. And in that role, he was responsible for helping drive towards getting wild and scenic status on the Merced River. And as you may know, that status is now threatened, which would be a terrible precedent for rivers in general. But to our speaker, it's personal. And you're going to hear more about that tonight. He's won numerous awards for stopping the Auber Dam, for his role in innovation and water conservation. He's really kind of epitomizes what Friends of the River is all about. So let me present Ron Stork.
Okay. Thank you. We're just taking care of the logistics here. It's great to be here. This gathering of the tribe every year is an important event for all of us, and I know that it really is very meaningful to the staff of Friends of the River, who don't see you every day and realize that we're working for you, and to see you all here gathered today really helps us. I think it's important to spend some time remembering where we've been and where we're going. Our organization, of course, has been very involved in some important dam fights in this state, trying to save some very precious rivers. And we've been beneficiaries of state legislation and federal legislation that allows us as Americans and California citizens to permanently protect rivers that are cherished by all of us. And so I'd just like to say a few brief words about a number of these things and what that means in the future. In California, we have the State Wild and Scenic River System, a Federal Wild and Scenic River System, and the North Coast rivers, thanks to Peter Bear and good river environmentalists and conservationists, were added to the State Wild and Scenic River System in 1972 and then added to the federal system in 1981. And these are big rivers and kind of pretty ones, I might add. These are magical places in California. They almost don't look like California, in fact. These are important victories for us. When these North Coast rivers were added to the Wild and Scenic River System, One of the most urbanized wild rivers in California was out of the system, flows through downtown Sacramento, and is much cherished by that community there. And we did that These were not just academic exercises. These were exercises of great passion on our part because these rivers were endangered. Those North Coast rivers were all slated by various parts of the State Water Project planning effort to be nothing but back-to-back reservoirs draining into the Central Valley instead of into the ocean where God intended them to go. The Tuolumne River, as for those of you who attended early on today, we had reminiscences from the old trust warriors, was under considerable threat by San Francisco and the Modesto and Turlock irrigation districts, and in 1984 was added to the National Wild and Scenic River System, an enormous victory for river conservationists throughout the whole country. We moved on to the Three Rivers campaign in 1997, where we saved partially and perhaps permanently the Kings River in between Kings Canyon National Park and Pine Flat Reservoir. The McCloud River is not protected in the Wild and Scenic River System, but its dams are prohibited on the McCloud. Quite a storied river in Northern California. The Merced River, again, part of that Three Rivers campaign. We got 3 rivers in 1 year. That was kind of cool. We should get, a dozen rivers every year. Wild and Scenic River status means that you can't dam it. And these rivers are put in a system just like the National Park System, a system that is respected by the American people, cherished by the American people, and protected for now and for the benefit of future generations. Well, the agenda is still, of course, unfinished. The San Joaquin River is probably not going to be eligible for Wild and Scenic River status here, but go see the San Joaquin River Gorge someday on a beautiful spring day. We've got lovely wildflower displays and really cool wild water. This is a stiller time of year. And how can I say this? It's one of the CalFed Dam areas where you'll be asked in next year to vote to spend $3 or $4 billion to provide for a dam here. Right across the bay, the East Bay Municipal Utility District is considering building New Pardee Dam, which would inundate 5 miles of the foothill section of the McColomy River. Friends of the River and others recently won a lawsuit that requires East Bay Mud to go back to the drawing boards at least a bit on whether or not they wish to do that. Folks in the Bay Area may wish to buttonhole their favorite East Bay Mud director someday and have some conversations with them about that. We are, after all, river savers here. Mr. McClintock still remains very dedicated to doing what he can to destroy 50 miles of the American River. And what has occurred this year is, I think, rather deeply disturbing. For the first time in American history, the United States House of Representatives is poised to disestablish a national wild and scenic river, or at least a portion of it. And I asked you to think about what that means, and it's actually pretty simple. What we had thought and were permanently protected rivers is now being proposed by many members of our United States Congress to not be permanently protected, essentially breaking faith with the commitment that past Congresses have made to the American people that these rivers would be protected for now and for future generations. And what does that mean? Well, I don't know. But we have certainly seen Mr. McClintock saying that the removal of the Klamath River dams, which the state of California and the federal agencies and the state of Oregon have all agreed to remove, shouldn't happen. Are we going back to unprotecting the North Coast rivers and looking at those plans to put over 50 miles of the Trinity River more under reservoirs to ship to Southern California? Well, the Tuolumne River Trust is here today in Forest, and as I said, gave us a wonderful conversation. Does the fact that the Congress wants to eliminate wild and scenic river protection for portions of the Merced mean that we have to fight these Tuolumne River battles that we won in 1984 all over again? What does it mean for our aspirations to protect the Clavey River permanently if wild and scenic river protection is not permanent? Do we have to fight for the Kings River again? An important battle that we won in 1987. Well, what about the McCloud? It started with Congressman Denham, freshman Congressman Denham, fresh from the California legislature, one of the major sponsors of the California Water Bond to provide $3 or $4 billion to build dams that wouldn't be paid for otherwise. Well, it cleared the Interior Committee or the Natural Resources Committee. It's widely expected to pass the House. Senator Feinstein has said that she favors giving the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission the authority to license dams on the Merced River. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission never met a dam it didn't like. That's the wrong way to treat our national wild and scenic rivers. So I think this community needs to recognize that we're in a tight spot, that we've got to rally. We've got to go up and down the state, talk to people. We've got to go back to Congress. We've got to talk to people. We've got to reinvigorate our commitment, our national commitment to these important systems like the National Park System or the National Wild and Scenic River System, National Wilderness Preservation System. Because if we don't continually do that, it appears that those promises of permanent protection are simply vacant promises that were never meant to be kept. So, I challenge this crowd and all of us to gather together again to rise to the challenge and stop this craziness.
Okay, well, thank you, Ron. We definitely have our challenges in front of us. That's what's kept us going for so long. So now we have another chance to bid here, and this is not going to be something you can take home with you, but it is something that you can leave as a legacy for your children and grandchildren. And to give you some more details, I have a longtime member of Friends of the River, a former board member, former mayor of the city of Cupertino, and an all-around good person, Dolly Sandoval. So there you go.
Thanks, Corley. All right, Ron, where are you? Thanks for the downer. Okay. Really, I came here early in the evening, and I said, okay, this is going to be a great party, because this is people I haven't seen in a year at most, and several for some of you. But we all come together for a reason here at the FOR fundraiser every year. And one is to get great deals on auction items, no doubt. The other, though, is really our commitment to environmentalism and to rivers and making sure the environment exists for our children and grandchildren as it has for us. Making sure that the commitment to the earth for future generations is important. And while all of us in this room would probably agree to that, in fact, raise your hand if you think protecting this earth is good for our future. Nice, I like that. While all of us would agree with that, not everybody does. So here's what I want to do. I want to take a quick poll on this audience that I'm talking to right now. For example, who has rafted the Merced River, for example? Raise your hand. Okay, or the American River, raise your hand. Okay, who has hiked, biked, walked, or camped along the Merced, which would, of course, include up in Yosemite? Raise your hand. All right. Who has never been on a river in their life? Okay, because you should have bought an auction item earlier. So, how many of you would like to stop this anti-environmental feeling we have in the nation that's going on and help protect some rivers today? Nice. Okay, how many of you would help FOR lead the fight in protecting our rivers and the dangers to our rivers right now, both here in California and throughout the nation? Raise your hand. Oh, more of you. You people in the middle, you're not raising your hand. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. All right. How many of you would like to send Ron Stork somewhere, preferably for me, to Washington, D.C., or somewhere throughout the state of California to help protect rivers? Awesome. Who's not raised their hand tonight? Perfect. Okay. We're asking you tonight to help us on a dollar-to-dollar, heartfelt level. We need your help, you, our main supporters here at Friends of the River, to help us raise $15,000. And that will do a couple of things. One, it will help Ron go talk to editorial boards throughout the state of California to help promote and protect the McCloud, promote and continue to protect the Merced, promote and continue to stop Auburn Dam from happening, and promote and protect environmentalism and talk about why having a good environment is good for our souls. So raise your hand if you're in favor of doing that. All right, keep that hand up if you're willing right now to commit to $1,000 to help us protect that. Okay, I see 169 in the back. I see 71 over here. Anybody else willing to say for $1,000? Heck yeah, and I don't even need it tonight, frankly. I need $1,000 over the course of our budgetary year, which is, well, when I was on the board, it always ended in June 30, right? Okay, so June 30, 2012. Anybody else? 109, thank you. 70, thank you. So we had 70, 109, 71, and whoever was in the back. One something. Thank you, 169. Thank you for those $1,000. That's $4,000 towards my $15,000 goal. Give them a hand. Unfortunately, here's the bad part. $4,000 to my $15,000 goal isn't going to get us there, right? I mean, you do the math. I'm a math teacher by trade, but that's $11,000 short. So how many people can raise their card and tell us over the course of the next few months they will give us $500 to help protect wild and scenic rivers throughout this area? I got 57 in the front, 115 in the middle, 12 in the back, 114. I'm only up to $6,000 now, and the elements only get smaller. So really, 170. Thank you. Anybody else? I thought the camera woman for a moment was raising her card, but it was only a camera. Darn it. Okay. All right. And we got 175 in the back. Thank you very much. All right. So You lucky folks. Who's rafted on the Merced, by the way? Okay, yeah, no price tag attached to this question. Go ahead and raise your hand. Who's rafted on the Merced? Okay, do you love Ned's Gulch? Do you love the energy from Corner Pocket? Do you love the thrill of almost getting thrown out of your boat? Really, honey? Really? Okay. All right, if you love that, can you give me $1 a day for the next year? $365. Who can give me $365? Really? In the FOR shirt in the way back, you were like, ah. Kenny, please? $365, it's only $1 a day. Anybody? All right, I'll go on to my next level. Let me see. Yes, it is. To protect the McLeod, the Tuolumne, the Merced, $250. Who can give me $250 today, or by the end of the calendar year, to help FOR meet its fundraising goal, to help Ron go talk to editorial boards to convince those folks in the LA region that protecting the environment is good. Number 87, thank you very much. We got number 93 back there, 65, 250, 110, 58. Who else can give me $250? So 106, I like you, but should I? Okay, I wasn't sure. Because I counted you really 106 in the $1,000 range, but he just flipped it down, I don't know. 138, thank you. 280, thank you. You were waving back there at the table. No. Steve Evans is saying no. Come on, Steve. All right, so that's $250. Who can give me $20 a month? So $20 a month, let me backtrack. Who drinks lattes? Liars? 126 says yes, thank you. All right, $20 a month. She's at $20 a month, slightly under 250. 150, $20 a month. That's 240, 173, 160, 13. Any other $20 a month people? All right. If, perhaps, you haven't bid at all, another free question. Who has too much stuff in their house? Their garage, they're everywhere. All right, so let me rid you of that stuff, but make you feel good about having FOR Save Rivers. Who can give me $150 now at this level? So the too much stuff means you don't get anything in return. You're just going to write a check, $150, and then you can help protect rivers for the next generation or 6. Okay, maybe 1. Okay, 105, we got 150, 55, 76. Okay, where am I at? 8? Ah. 10. 8, 10, that's like a lot. 11? Oh my God, you are so bad. Okay, so now we're gonna cut to the chase here. Who's not raised their hand? No cards, no cards, no numbers. Who's not raised their hand on giving any donation at all? Thank you, Steve Evans, for being honest back there. I'm gonna give you a free pass. Richard Weiss. Okay, who really hasn't raised their hands on giving anything in this auction? Somebody else at the table who's having dessert, by the way. Can you give any dollar amount, $100? If you can give $100 to this cause to help Ron Stork, send the message. We got 104, thank you. 108, 180, thank you. 176, 167, T-shirt guy. 154, Steve Evans, thank you. Anybody else in for 100? 141, anybody else in for 100? Woman who waved in the back, black shirt or black dress, no sleeves. Anybody else? 174, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so I'm about 2/3 of the way, but lucky for you, we have all your names and credit card numbers and all that stuff. So if you haven't raised your card, we're going to make up the difference between all those 12 people who haven't bid at all tonight. Just kidding. All right. Actually, unless anybody wants to just throw out a number, I think I'm going to first of all thank Patty and Corley Phillips, because emceeing this event is nothing short of heroic, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate all of you, our sponsors and friends of Friends of the River.
I'm sorry, I have some donors who want to give 50, and you haven't given them that option yet.
We do? Yeah. Really? Who wants to give 50? Tell me. 82, 117, 72. Who else? 50? 50 is really only 14 super lattes. Right, 50 is one latte a month. 50 is, well, if you're speeding to get here, no, that's not going to cover it. Okay, $50. It's probably not the price of a permit to go on the Tuolumne River, is it? No. Anybody else at 50? Okay, we got those three.
Okay.
Done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dolly. Wow. All right, we're gonna give you one more chance to help us get to that goal. And here to talk about it is a man who needs no introduction, I've been told. Mark Dubois is going to talk about a canoe trip on the Cosumnes River, correct? So take it away, Mark.
So one of my favorite places in California is California's little Serengeti. And the Cosumnes River is a very ephemeral stream. You can only run it after there's been some rains. But right now, if you go there, go to the Cosumnes River Preserve, you will see these incredible sandhill cranes that are not quite as tall as me, but their wingspan is bigger than mine. And the first time I went there, we saw literally tens of thousands of ducks of all the different kinds. We weren't even looking because I had never seen the tundra swans that were there by 1,000. And then we drove a little further and saw the 500 sandhill cranes, and we'd just come back from Africa. And it's like, oh, this has been in my backyard the whole time. I grew up in Sacramento and didn't know it was right here. So one of the things we discovered is this river, there's a very interesting canoe run you can run. And so I'm ready to take 2 canoes worth of 3 adults, or if 2 of them are kids, essentially 2 boatloads, including me, but down the Cosumnes River sometime this winter in the next few, the next couple of months. So that's what it is, and it's one of the more magical ways. Drive there anyway and just go look, but going down the river was like stepping back into what California used to be like. Because the peat soils, they could never build levees. So when you're literally floating through the good old riparian zone. So there it is.
Wow. California's Serengeti. Who would like to go to California's Serengeti? Where are we going to start this bidding? How about a couple $100? Can I get $200 to go out with Mark Dubois in California's Serengeti? $200 over here. Can I get 3? I got 2. Can I get 3? Wow, this is like the guy that started all in the stand. 3. Dolly's got 3. I got 3. Can I get 4? 3 over here. Dolly, Mrs. Enthusiasm, is going for 3. Can I get $400 canoeing on the Cosumnes River? All right, going once. The endangered. Going twice. All right, Dolly, you're going canoeing. All right, well, thank you all very much. So now you're going to have the moment we've all been waiting for, which is the opportunity to make some awards to the most committed people here in protecting California rivers. And to present our first award, let me bring up the chairman of the board of Friends of the River, Jim Genus. So, Jim.
Thank you, Corley. Tonight we are presenting Congressman Sam Farr with the 2011 Peter Bear Award. This award is named in honor of California State Senator Peter Bear, who is considered to be the father of the 1972 California Wild and Scenic Rivers Act. The Peter H. Bear Award is presented to an elected official who has taken significant actions to preserve and protect California's rivers or advance sustainable water policy in California. Past recipients of this award have included Pete McCloskey, who was here earlier in the evening. Is Congressman McCloskey still here? He left. Congressman George Miller, then California Attorney General, now State Treasurer Bill Lockyer, and State Senator Lois Wolk. Sam Farr, tonight's recipient of the 2011 Peter Bear Award, has served as U.S. Congressman from California's 17th District since 1993, representing California's beautiful Central Coast. Congressman Farr's congressional duties include serving on the House Appropriations Committee and co-chairing the House Oceans Caucus, to name just two from a very long list of services in the Congress. In 2002, Congressman Farr sponsored legislation adding 54,000 acres to the Ventana and Silver Peak wilderness areas, including Little Sur, Arroyo Seco, and Naciempo rivers. Very good, thank you. During the 112th Congress, he co-sponsored the West Coast Oceans Protection Act, Trash Reduction Act, as well as sponsoring legislation to designate 90 miles of river in the Los Padres National Forest as wild and scenic. Please join me in welcoming the 2011 recipient of the Peter H. Bear Award, United States Congressman Sam Farr.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much, Jim. Thank all of you for coming. What a night. I'm surrounded by people that I've just admired all my life, but one of them, Pete McCloskey, was one of the greatest environmental champions in congressional history, not as a congressman, but when he left Congress, because he had the guts to register and run against Richard Pombo, and that's the election that beat Richard Pombo. And I have, Mark DeBow is the fellow who started this whole thing. Many of you are too young to even know about it, but they're at a time when nobody paid any attention to the rivers except people who wanted to extract the resources, to dam them, to take the water out of them, to pollute them, essentially never thinking that there would be an opportunity or a reason to why you'd want to save them and keep them wild and scenic. He strapped himself to a rock on the Stanislaus and got international attention on it. That led to the passage of the national, first time legislation to create the authorization to designate wild and scenic rivers, and he's here tonight. One of the awards is on his behalf, and he's just, to me, one of the heroes of this country. And my third hero here tonight is Steve Evans, who I think is, in our area, is known as Mr. River. I mean, he just does everything politically to get this protection that I'm trying to establish in federal law. But tonight really begins in 1970, because that's the year, an election year, that Peter Bear was elected from Marin, Napa, and Sonoma counties to be the Republican state senator in the California State Senate. And his very first bill was a guy named Bill Press, who he brought to Sacramento to be his chief of staff. And Bill Press, as you know, is a national syndicated columnist and has a daily talk show, and often does the Ron Owens show here in San Francisco.
And Bill was reminding me, we were talking last night, we're very close friends, about what went on in that year. He introduced, it was SB 107. It was his first bill in the California State Senate. And he was trying to designate 3 rivers, the Eel River, the Trinity, and what was the third one? The Klamath, as wild and scenic rivers. Those were not rivers in his district. They were rivers in a senator named Randy Collier. Randy Collier had been in the state senate forever and ever. He was known as the silver fox of the Siskiyous. And nobody, there was an adage that you could not, as a politician, go into his district, which was all of Northern California, without his permission, because he was so powerful. And my father served in the state senate with him. My father created the pretext to the Coastal Commission Act. He was head of the Natural Resources Committee, and he led a lot of environmental movements. And my father was nicknamed by Randy Collier as the posy-picking senator. Well, he went on to, he picked a lot of posies and got Lady Bird Johnson's attention, and he created the concept of scenic highways. And my dad went on to be the first director of scenic highways in the United States. But Randy Collier couldn't be beat. He was chair of the Senate Finance Committee, which is the most powerful committee in the state Senate. And Peter Bear dared him by saying, I'm going to mark 3 rivers in your district as wild and scenic. And there was not a single big political support for it, except for, and remember, in those days, all the water agencies, even the California State Water Agency, chaired by then Bill Gianelli, was against this bill. All the water agencies in California were, all the water districts, all the timber interests were against it. All of the agricultural interests were against it. There wasn't anybody supporting his bill except a group of Indians in Northern California that were in, the name of that group was the, I'm trying to find this in my notes here. The River Valley Indians. Round Valley, excuse me, Round Valley Indians, who said that this dam would destroy their burial site. That and fishermen, who were, I think, if we think about the commercial aspects of environmental protection, were their first people that came out on the commercial side saying that wild and scenic rivers, that rivers indeed were very important and that they were a business and they ought to be respected for their business opinions just like people in agriculture and timber. That's all Peter Bear had on his side. But because he was an incredibly effective legislator, he was able to get that bill finally through, not the first year, but the second year. And then Governor Ronald Reagan signed that bill, even though his appointee to the State Water Resources Board opposed it. Peter Bear was a marvelous person and one that we all admired. We were all Democrats, but we thought we ought to have more Republicans like Peter Bear. We could accomplish a lot. So I'm very honored to receive this award from you because I respect, in fact, when I was a young staff member, and some of my colleagues are here who we were all met in the staff, and some of my staff from Washington who are National Sea Grant Fellows are here tonight too. And John Bozell, my former staff member from Sacramento, is here. I remember my first trips on the American River and the North Fork and Middle Fork. We didn't have any, there were no commercial operators in those days. What we did on weekends is we took those old yellow blow-up rafts, and we blew them up by mouth. And then we had paddles. And somebody suggested maybe we ought to carry life preservers, but do you think we wore them? Hell no, we just put them in the boat. And of course, the first flip, everything was gone and they were down the river. And we had no idea the danger that we were experiencing. And we used to do this week after week, and we almost all can tell you harrowing stories of loss of life because we were very foolish. But it led to the appreciation in the staff of the California legislature of why we needed to protect these rivers, and that goes on today. What I just want to say in closing, and thank you for this award, is that I was pained by how difficult it is to raise money tonight. I mean, what we're up against is people that are willing to spend millions of dollars on lobbyists, millions. And it's absolutely pitiful that we in the environmental movement have to go out and beg for a few dollars in order to get heard and represented. If we elect the Peter Bears, and if we elect the George Millers and the Sam Farrs and people like us that are all good environmentalists, we won't have to spend a dime of money because we'll do the right thing. And what you all have the opportunity to do is to turn your passion, being here tonight, the time you're putting in, into politics. Next year is an election year. And Ron was very sweet and kind about how bad it is in Washington. When Don Young took over the Resources Committee, and I was a freshman in Congress when sitting on that committee, George Miller had been the chair. In 1994, the Democrats lost. Republicans took over. Its senior ranking member was Don Young from Alaska. His speech to the committee when we formed it was, there's a new wind, there's a new voice in town, and I'm that voice. And my opinion is the American taxpayer has to get a return on their investment. And that return, in my opinion, is there's no river that can't be dammed, there's no mineral that can't be mined, and there's no tree that can't be cut. Well, that attitude is there. It's in the majority. It's in the majority. And I'll tell you, with this economy being the way it is, and unemployment as high as it is, a lot of people are beginning to think that, yeah, it's all this environmental regulation. We got too much of it. And boy, the oil companies, they're not running oil ads anymore. Look, they got the sweetest environmental ads on television, and at the end they say they're sponsored by an oil company. They're trying to buy that soft sell that we're on your side. Well, they're not. And if we don't turn this energy, and whether you're an occupier in Wall Street or an occupier in San Francisco, that voice has got to be turned into a political movement because they're right. But the turning of that energy is in this room tonight. And so in accepting this award, I'm a politician. I want you to be involved in the politics of America. There is a responsibility to being an American citizen. You can't claim your citizenship without practicing it. And there's only one thing you have to do to practice it, and that's to vote. We've got to go out there and get people registered and tell them a story, and not tell them, I think we don't do it in the way that the media is selling, and the way the cable companies are being so effective in selling. They're selling hate. They're selling negative, because that sells. We got to just sell our own stories. It's a time America recaptures itself. It's a time that we return to first, not to last. And we're going to do that by your energy, your passion, and your ability. Because I'm introducing this bill. I've had a success in putting all the rocks and islands off the California coastline, from Oregon to Mexico, in wilderness status. Done not by legislation, but by Bill Clinton's executive order, because we couldn't get the legislation out of the Resources Committee. I've been successful in naming these wilderness areas in Big Sur and expanding them, and the bill that I'm putting in is going to expand more of that and put another 90 miles of federal land into the wild and scenic rivers. But that first bill that I passed in doing that was signed by George Bush. And it didn't have a single negative vote in either the House or the Senate. Had it had any opposition, it wouldn't have gotten passed. So, and we've been able to convert Fort Ord, 28,000 acres, which is about the size of San Francisco, into a new Bureau of Land Management, big, huge park, and the coastline, 4 miles of coastline along the freeway, between the freeway and it is all now a new state park, 4 miles of coastal dunes protected forever. And I've added other parks, both state and federal access. But those days are over, because you can introduce those bills, but if you don't have the majority, you don't have the support in both the House and the Senate and in the presidency, you can't get those bills signed. So if we want to really take back America, it's going to have to start by taking back the politics of America. You are that politics. Thank you for this award. Thank you, Peter Baer, for leading the effort.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Congressman Farr. You know, it's refreshing to know there's still reasonable voices in Congress, because you hear so many unreasonable ones. It's great to know we have some reasonable voices still that standing for the right causes, the ones we believe in. So our next award is called the Mark Dubois Award. And this is an award that Friends of the River gives out every year to the individual or group of individuals that has done the most for river conservation in California. And this year we're pleased to be giving this award to the founders of the Tuolumne River Trust, our sister organization and fight for preserving the Tuolumne River. And to introduce those folks, the man who needs no introduction, the namesake of our award, Mr. Mark Dubois.
Well, it's a treat to follow Sam and all the amazing work he's done for all of us. I too, like Sam, I found myself looking at who was here tonight, and there are people who have been mentors, there's people who have been teachers, there's people who have been colleagues, and there's people who have been friends for a long, long while. So it's humbling to be here. It's such a stunning reunion. I will also say that I just finished a 6-week, 400-mile trip down the Salmon River. So as I was in the magic of the Salmon River, I couldn't come close to capturing that miracle that I experienced every day. I would wake up just giggling with, I get to be here, you know, waking to the song of the river every morning, watching the stars circle and chase each other around the sky. The stunning views, I was just blown away with how beautiful it was. And I thought, wow, and I had seen a lot of the agriculture upstream, and I thought, if they knew this, they wouldn't necessarily be doing that. So I also feel like I'm still a little thin on words to try to convey what the Tuolumne Trust did, but I will attempt. And the Tuolumne River Trust began when we were in the final throes of the Stanislaus. And they came together because a bunch of us were completely focused on the very last gasp of seeing what we could do to change that. And, you know, again, that Margaret Mead line of never doubt what a small handful of thoughtful, committed citizens can do to change the world. It's the only thing that ever has. Well, I looked at, again, this small group of citizens who came together, and one of their many steps, and it's so hard to name, you know, any people along the way, but, you know, one of them, they looked at this crazy guy, John Amadeo, who had just worked with Phil Burton, and did the last protection of the redwoods. And they said, oh, he's pretty successful. And so far with rivers, we kept losing and losing and losing. Every battle we had, we were losing. And so, and Ron gave a much, much more elaborate history. But what I know is that, like all of you in this room, the Tuolumne Trust touched the hearts of people who know this linear world where we're going to build more dams, we're going to make more money happen. Somehow they morphed that old world view, and by building these incredible coalitions, they helped change the course of a lot of the fate for rivers for California, and a part of an awakening for the nation. the piece that I guess I'll say before I invite those of you who consider yourself founders of the Tuolumne Trust, I'm going to invite you to come up. But before I do, I just want to say that again, as I look around this room and it is humbling to see who's in the room and the track record and knowing how much each one of us have contributed to changing a worldview. And as Ron pointed out, we have a long ways to go. But as John pointed out a little earlier this evening, he said, one of the things that Coelho said at the last hearing before he was losing the Tuolumne, he went to his team and said, we've been paying you guys millions to do the PR work, and this ragtag group is beating you hands down. And when the Army Corps fellow responded to, again, we had all the money on our side, how come you seem to have people's hearts? Well, what I know, it was beautiful to see everyone here has been on the beauty and magic of rivers, and it's touched all of us. And Sam talked about it's going to take stories. So how do we help shift and take the depth of what we all know in these magic of rivers and stand on top of the shoulders of all that's been done and help do this great turning that humanity needs us to do so we can walk with this precious planet? So in the meantime, would all of those of you who consider yourself founders of the Tuolumne Trust, come on up. Don't be shy, come on up. Come on up. Yeah, all the way. You betcha. Lori McCann, are you? So I'm going to have each one of them get to share their name, and then they're going to be given an award here.
I'm Alexander Gagin. I was the Friends of the River representative to the Tuolumne Trust Board. Shall I just pass it down? Yep. Tony Rossman, part-time lawyer.
Don Briggs, I finally deserted Mark on the stand because I wanted to save the Tuolumne.
Joe Daly, I was the representative for the Outfitters.
Robert Canning, I worked in the office.
Way too modest. John Amadeo, I was honored to be the founding executive director. Oh, is Laurie McCann here?
Where'd she go?
She was here. Well, she should be here. She was there with us from the start and helped us raise the money and much more.
Bob Hackamack, I'm a numbers guy. I accused those dam builders of swindling their partner, and the partners were silent thereafter for 7 years.
Richard Roos Collins, I was the 1/3 time publicist. My real job was to tell John off-color jokes whenever his spirits were down.
I'm Nancy Daigle, and I was the Sierra Club Bay Chapter River Touring Section's representative on the board.
Amy Meyer, and I was involved with the city of San Francisco and concerned about the camps that are along the Tuolumne.
Yeah. So I'm going to give this poor stone to John Amadeo, who's going to share a few thoughts as well.
This is incredible. Thank you very, very much. I know we're all particularly honored to have our dear friend Mark, one of all of our heroes. I just want to share a few things. I want to first establish what was a very powerful and Catherine, you should be up here. Catherine Fox, get up here. Oh, any event, you're going to be part of this story, I'm telling you, okay? The relationship between FOR and the Tuolumne Trust, I think, is best given by the analogy that if you think back to when Adam gave up one of his ribs in the creation of Eve. And all us men, I think we all recognize we definitely gave our very best rib in that. On this occasion, we have a number, Friends of the River shared a number of their great ribs. Many of them up here, Alexander, and I guess Antonio was involved, and Don and Joe. I don't know, were you involved in the stand? A little bit, okay. Bob was involved in everything. Obviously, Richard Bruce Collins and Nancy. So you can see there was a direct lineage. And we built upon some very tall shoulders, literally, and more so in terms of all that they had developed and tested. And then, you know, maybe we took it to a new level. We expanded it and were able to bring in new people. And I think Alexander had a great saying. He describes it as 1,000 heroes. And that, in truth, is what it was. Because, I mean, when you get the first year Republican Senator Pete Wilson receiving more letters, and then Tom Huntington, you should be up here. But anyway, more letters on the Tuolumne River than on any other issue in his first year, and over 90% of them were pro-preservation, you know you have so many heroes. And we told some stories earlier today, remarkable people coming forward. I'm not going to repeat them now. I will just lastly share my own personal belief why the group was able to succeed as it did ultimately. And you know, one of the people who Don got involved actually was Richard Chamberlain. Right. And this is baseball season, so I got to say that this guy was the Reggie Jackson of our effort. He went for the long ball. You're going to strike out sometimes. When he connected, a thing of beauty. Richard Chamberlain was, so many of you aren't old enough to remember, he was the heartthrob of America at that point. And he just did wonders for us. But on one occasion, we were having a private luncheon with one of our champions, Senator Alan Cranston, and Chamberlain was bewildered. He was saying, I don't get it. How can you do this work? It's so tough. It's so nasty. I mean, you know, how can you get up and do it every day? And Senator Cranston literally opened up his wallet. He pulled out a little piece of paper he said he carried with him to remind him. And I guess it was a quote from Harry Truman. And it simply said, there's no telling how much good you can do if you don't care who gets the credit. And that's what I think we had. Because we had many people who came together, made their contribution. I see Jerry Cadigan, another guy who should be up here, and Linda, and just came together, did what they could, and together definitely, you know, elevated that campaign to a success such that American Rivers had declared it the most endangered river in 1981 in America. In 1984, they declared that its Wild and Scenic was the most important designation in the history of the Wild and Scenic Act. So many of you are part of that 1,000 heroes, and I know you continue to be today in being 1,000 heroes as we respond to Congressman Farr's insight and challenge that it's time we got to again get marching, because there are not good things happening, and we're going to protect what we have, yet alone extend it. It's time to get to work. So thank you on behalf of all of us.
All right, thank you very much. You know times are tough when the award is a rock. But it's a really nice rock. And thank you very much for great stories and really a great history. We're doing another picture. We need one more picture, Alexander? I think they're trying to get one more here. I'll get out. I might break the camera. All right, well, this is probably the worst kept secret in the room, but there is dessert in the back for those of you who have not discovered that. And while we're at it, I want to thank Mike Garcia and Toast for a great catering job. The food was fantastic, so thanks to Toast. The bar is still open for a few more minutes, kind of a last call on the bar. Thanks to our wine sponsors, Ironstone Vineyards, Halter Ranch, and Dalatero Wines. And thank you all for coming and supporting California Rivers. Good night.